Today on Straight Talk Africa, we have a Nigerian superhero. And not one, but two African princesses from the Ugandan kingdom of Buganda. That's coming up next right here on Straight Talk Africa. Hello, you're welcome Straight Talk Africa, live from the Voice of America studios here in Washington. I am Shaka Ssali.
Hello, Shaka, and hello to all our viewers and listeners on the continent and elsewhere. I'm Ayan Bior, your social media reporter.
Today, it's a conversation with two young entrepreneurs who are members of the African diaspora here in the United States.
And coming up later in our STA inbox, our audience has weighed in on our topic through emails and Facebook comments, and we'll reveal some of them ahead on Straight Talk Africa.
Young Africans living in the United States are finding ways of promoting their African culture and heritage. My colleague Paul Cisco has more on the story.
Whether superhero or royalty, success does not come easily. Yvonne Senkawa was born in Kenya. Her parents are Ugandan, and she now lives in Pasadena, California. She's first and foremost her daughter's mom, but she's also a writer, educator, and entrepreneur. The author of The African Adventures of Ugandan Princesses Kinzie and Mamika has a line of dolls and accessories that she's created and markets. Roy Okupe is from Nigeria, an animator, studio producer, the creator of The Legend of Wally Williams, and co-founder and chief executive officer of Unique Studios.
I want to showcase African talent on a global level. There's a lot of talented people in Africa and Nigeria right now who do a lot of stuff in animation, comic books, and video games, but they don't really get recognition outside the country or even outside the continent as a whole.
There is no good, no evil, only men who are yet to decide what drives them.
Inspire people to chase their dreams while I'm living mine. This has been a dream since I was a child, to create an African superhero, a Nigerian superhero, based in a country that I was born, where I grew up, and in an environment where I grew up. So, I mean, each and every day, that's really what pushes me. What inspires me is mainly trying to inspire other people, because this is more than comic books for me.
Now meet super spy Lance Spearman. The fictional Spear, sophisticated spy detective and superhero all rolled into one, was featured in a widely read weekly photo comic from 1968 to 1972 across much of Africa.
The name's Bond. James Bond.
Similar to his well-dressed British counterpart, the Spear drank, smoked expensive cigars, liked fancy cars, and beautiful women. Okupe's Wally Williams adventures are set in 2025 Nigeria. In addition to protecting the innocent and fighting evil, the animated Nigerian superhero is saving his homeland and growing in popularity around the world. Like Okupe, entrepreneur Yvonne Senkawa does what she does to better young people and promote their culture and African homelands.
Well, my books are actually to teach our children and adults that our history as colored people usually starts with slavery, or our history starts with colonization.
She writes, "Our names Kinzie and Namika are only given to princesses in Uganda. Our mommy is queen. She says Uganda is the pearl of Africa." Yvonne says her characters and readers learn life skills and cultural history on their adventures, and she says there are many more adventures ahead. Paul Cisco, VOA News, Washington.
Thanks, Paul, for that report. Joining us here in our Washington studio is Roy Okupe, a Nigerian-born animator. Well, Roy, I have to say frankly that I am profoundly honored and exceedingly humbled to have the opportunity to host you on Straight Talk Africa for the first time.
The honor is all mine. I've been looking forward to this for a very long time, so thanks for having me.
So how are you, Oga Pata Pata? That's what they would address you in Lagos, I hope.
Yeah, I'm doing very well. And for those that don't know, Oga Pata Pata really means like big boss.
Very
Although
interesting.
I'm not sure if I'm there yet.
Very interesting. So, you probably soon be there anyway.
Amen to that.
You grew up around downtown Lagos, huh?
Yes, I did.
The island?
I grew up in multiple places, actually. Mostly the mainland, Surulere.
Not Ikoyi.
A little bit. I spent a little bit of time in Ikoyi, but most of my childhood was spent in Surulere, Lagos.
Very interesting.
The mainland. Yes.
And joining us from our bureau in Los Angeles, California, is Yvonne Senkandwa, author and entrepreneur. She comes from the Ugandan kingdom of Buganda. Well, I have to tell you, frankly, Yvonne, that it's been a very long time since we thought about doing something like this.
Yes, we have, and I'm very honored to be here to this day.
I really have to thank you from the deepest, better part of the bottom of my cavalry, heart and soul, for your patience.
Thank you so much, Shaka.
You're most welcome. Later in the program, we'll give you, the audience, a chance to call and talk with our guests. The number to call is 202-619-3111, and the US country code is 1. Let me come to you immediately, Oga. How do you feel like, given frankly how you started and where you are right now?
I mean, I must say, I feel very good. The one thing that I think I really appreciate is being able to wake up and know that I'm doing what I'm passionate about. It wasn't always like that all my life, but it hasn't come without its own down periods. But I mean, with any other entrepreneur, they will tell you that it's you actually work almost twice as hard than when you're maybe working for someone or you have a 9-to-5. So the work gets harder, but the rewards and the actual satisfaction, it's on a deeper level. And for me, I can't ask for more.
This African superhero.
Yes.
This was really your role model, so to speak, as you grew up, is it?
Not this one in particular. I mean, I grew up watching a lot of the Marvel and DC superheroes, like the Spider-Man, the Batmans, Iron Man, Ninja Turtles, and some of the other popular cartoons that were available back then and even till now. But for me, one thing that always felt like was missing was a superhero or even just an animation that was based in either Nigeria or Africa as a whole. I didn't see any of those kind of characters. So from a very young age, I always thought it would be nice or it would be cool to have a character that was from where I was from. And that's kind of like the inspiration over the years that built up in me until I finally had the courage to go out and do it.
So if in fact what you're saying is true, then how come you end up in fact studying computers?
I would say that for me, I wanted to study computer science because I've always been fascinated with technology. This for me was something that I thought could just be a hobby, like, okay, cartoons. It never really struck me that I could build a career out of, creating comic books or doing animation. So for me, it was always, well, you can do this in your spare time, but if you really want to, have a job where you can feel secure, study computers, because computers will be around forever. And that's how I got into computer science. It's something that I still do web development till now.
I'm sure that they still add value even to this particular...
Oh, yes, definitely. It's a skill that, like I said, I still use till now to augment what I'm doing now with my books and my animation.
What about the challenges? Because doing a bit of research, I gather that at one time things were not looking good at all.
For entrepreneur, challenges they're universal and they're continuous. So whether it's when you start or even when you start to see success, those challenges, they come every day. But I think if you, again, ask any entrepreneur, starting out or actually, looking for the courage or finding the courage within yourself to actually step out and say, okay, I want to do this for a living, is where the biggest challenge is actually believing in yourself. But I always tell people that once you have to believe in yourself before anybody else can. And it sounds very harsh, but that's just the way it is. It's not something, no one can believe in you for you. That has to come from within. And for me, that was the greatest challenge, believing in myself that I could actually do superheroes, cartoons, and comic books for a living isn't something that you grow up thinking in Africa.
What about when you run into this movie producer who tells you that EXO looked very interesting?
Yes.
But you should think about changing the race of the character. Was this a white producer?
Yes, it was. As negative as that was, and as negative as that sounds, to be honest, that was a turning point for me, because I could have chosen to give up at that point, because that was someone with experience that actually knew what he was talking about, and I was very green in this industry. So for me, for hearing that from someone who I respected, could have easily broken me, and it did for a while. But I chose not to believe in his report, and I chose to believe in what I knew I had inside me. And I used that as motivation to actually prove him wrong. And to this day, I'm thankful that that happened, because I think that pushed me along further to even put more of an effort to actually prove that this kind of thing isn't something that's just a novelty idea. It isn't something that is just a flash in the pan. It's something that's here to stay.
Are you in touch with that particular producer?
No, I'm not.
Never heard from him?
No, I'm not. I haven't.
You know, Oga, there is a saying that success has many fathers.
Yes.
Mothers, aunts, you name it.
Yes.
But failure
Yes.
is an orphan.
Yes, it is, but I also believe that failure can be the greatest teacher. It shows you a way not to do things. It also, I think, failure can be used as a tool to not only teach yourself, but teach other people that come after you. So a lot of things that I try to do now is even other people that are trying to do comic books or animation, I try to, give some of my own experience and say, well, I tried this and this didn't work, because one of the things that pushes me every day in this occupation or this entrepreneurship is to inspire people to chase their dreams while I'm living mine. I don't necessarily just want to do this just for, what I can gain. It's also for what I can give back as well, too.
Very interesting. Now, Yvonne, in the city of Los Angeles, of course, otherwise known as the City of the Angels, are you there?
Yes, I am here, Shaka.
Now, you published 2 books, of course, on 2 children's books. What are they about, and what inspired that particular idea?
Well, the inspiration actually just comes from who I am and how I was raised. I think that it's important for all of us, including our children, to have a sense of pride of who we are, and to have cultural pride as a staple in your life. I was raised by my mother, who made sure that we spoke Luganda at home. And my family and my siblings and I were also raising our children to speak Luganda. So my books were inspired in the household that I grew up in, where royalty as well is really a significant part of Ugandan culture.
Would it be fair, by the way, to address you as princess?
I would love the title, but I'm not from the I'm not a princess.
I see.
But I do consider myself a princess from time to time, yes.
Very interesting. What about, during my research, of course, I came to learn that part of the reason you found yourself where you are right now is precisely because you wanted to buy a doll for your niece. But you wanted to buy a doll that would reflect your niece's culture, and it wasn't there. It wasn't available. Is that true?
That's absolutely true. When my niece was born in 2006, I tried to gift her with a doll, and I looked for a doll that would look similar to me or similar to her, and it was difficult. And I journeyed on to writing the books, and the books became the dolls. So I'm feeling that my work that came from an idea to become a book is actually my success that I consider myself right now, just because I was able to have an idea and bring it to life.
Have you been able to explain that to your niece? And if you did, what was her reaction?
My nieces are so excited. They're actually here in the studio with me. Malaika and Mukisa, they are the inspiration for the dolls. The dolls Malaika and Mukisa are similar our living dolls are similar to the dolls that we have
Very interesting.
here for you.
Well, I suppose one could say congratulations are in order, really.
Thank you so much, Shaka.
You're most welcome. Now we'll pause for a short break, and we would like to remind you that Straight Talk Africa is now on the social networking website Twitter, and we are tweeting live. Follow us at VOA Shaka, that's VOA Shaka, and join in on today's discussion with your questions and comments. Don't forget to use the hashtag VOA Africa Business. And we are still on Facebook. Just enter the keyword Straight Talk Africa, become a fan, and connect with other friends of the Voice of America. We'll be right back with you, so please don't go away.
To touch on things that are important to people on an everyday basis. We hope that our viewers are getting inspired when they watch our show. They're getting a view of the world from a different perspective, things that perhaps are not in their immediate vicinity. Today, I could put in on the show something that is a little different, a little unique, and this gives me that, inspiration to come to work.
This is Straight Talk Africa on the Voice of America. What is your opinion about today's topic? Call us at 202-619-3111. U.S. country code 1. When you call, remember the following. Ask only one question. Keep your comment brief and turn down the volume on your radio or television. Now let's return to Straight Talk Africa.
Thank you very much, Esther Gizu-Yuwat. And of course, this is Straight Talk Africa, coming to you live from Washington. Ivan, what about the significance of the Blue Boy doll?
The Blue Boy doll is actually my third book, which I would like to introduce to my fans and readers sometime this year. It signifies a prince in our country. I noticed that young boys as well do play with dolls, and I looked on the market for a boy doll and I couldn't find one, especially one of color. So the boy doll is dressed in a kanzu, which is a traditional Buganda wear, and his name is Prince Wasajja. And coincidentally, we have Prince Wasajja in the palace right now in Uganda. So it's brought about some excitement about having a boy doll as well.
It's very interesting because I happen to know the prince, actually. I think we have exchanged some social amenities in the past. What about your adventures, teaching words in Luganda? Why? Why particularly Luganda? What happens to the other people who cannot access the language?
I believe that in Uganda, there is a big enough market just concentrating on the Buganda readership. In Uganda, the school system, the children first learn in the local language and then they transition into English. So there is a market there. It's small, but it's worth it. I believe that any language, no matter how small the population is, can come about and influence other cultures as well. And I feel that Luganda can influence, and just learning a word or two is something that I think anyone would be proud of, especially if they met a Ugandan who spoke Luganda and as well as travel to Uganda. I think Uganda is a place worth visiting and looking at the culture and looking at the royalty as well. You
have been sharing your work very extensively, it seems to me, in the greater Los Angeles area. You have also been to Boston, to other places. What has been the reaction so far from those types of groups?
Well, we're getting a lot of excitement, a lot of feedback, emails, a lot of Facebook messages, emails, phone calls regarding the dolls. Right now, the dolls are very much in the early development stages, and I'm doing a lot of the groundwork to get the dolls to the customers, which is something that is quite a task in itself. I have other ideas that I would like to introduce to the fans and the readers of the Nkinzi and Namika books. So when we traveled to Boston, we had a tea party for the children and gave away books and gifts to them so that they could take home to share with their families and have their parents read to them.
Where do you get that kind of money in order to be able to distribute those types of books freely, Ivan?
Well, that is one of the most challenging aspects of being an entrepreneur. Capital is the most difficult thing to acquire when you're starting from the ground up. I actually liquidated savings of my own personal from working. I previously worked at USC as an editor as well as McGraw-Hill, and I saved up a little bit of money, which helped me to bring my products to life.
So you worked at the Trojans, the University of Southern California.
Yes, I did, and we won this weekend, so it's just quite an exciting time for us.
They always seem to find a way of winning. I used to believe in that particular neighborhood. In fact, when I was attending graduate school at the University of California, Los Angeles, otherwise known as UCLA, and to some, of course, on campus, they would say the University of Caucasians living in Asia.
My brother is a Bruin as well, so we have some Bruin pride, too, in the household.
The Bruins from Westwood, and of course, the VOA studios themselves happen to be, guess where? In Westwood.
In Westwood, yes, we're right around the corner from UCLA. Very, very proud to be here.
That, of course, happens to be the university town for UCLA.
Yes, it is.
What is your target audience, Ivan?
My target audience are young girls and boys. I think that adults as well could enjoy the dolls. There are many doll collectors out there that enjoy collecting dolls, and I've met a lot of people that collect comic books, especially color or ethnic comic books for themselves. So there are a lot of adults who are interested in the product, as well as little girls and boys who love the books and the dolls.
Very interesting. Oga Pata Pata, are you surprised that your motivation, in fact, seems to be on the same page with Ivan?
No, I'm not. No, I'm not at all. And I'm actually very, very impressed. I'm very proud of what she's doing. Apart from me and her, there's so many other people that are, getting in touch with their roots from Africa. Because we believe it's time to tell a story that you don't necessarily see in the mainstream about Africa as a whole. Mm-hmm. And that's kind of like, as part of the inspiration for me is to, tell Africa's story, tell the story of Africa that you don't, regularly see. Most of the time you see negative things like, okay, the corruption and the poverty, which, we should talk about those things, but why don't we talk about the positive things that come out of Africa? The positive history, the inspiring history about our kings, our queens, and there's a whole lot of wealth of not just only talent in Africa in terms of writers, artists, animators, people that do games, but the history alone itself is such a wealth of both knowledge, inspiration, and entertainment that a lot of people have not really tapped into over the years.
Very interesting. When I was beginning this program about 16 years ago, Oga, I was asked in an interview as to what did I need to do, or what did I in fact need to accomplish in order for me to consider myself a success. I remember sincerely, and I'm telling you this from the deepest, better part of the bottom of my Kabale heart and soul. That's the little town in southwestern Uganda where I was born. I said, if I can first and foremost succeed at remaining authentically the kid from Kabale, Shaka Ssali. And I'm glad as I cross the continent, as I interact with the email, I interact with Twitter, telephone calls and what have you, it looks like I might in fact have been able to succeed after all.
No, definitely. And I really, I identify with your definition of success. Some people, look at money or achievements or titles, and those are great things to have. But my definition of success is: do you wake up every day happy? And for me, I'm very, very happy with what I'm doing. It may not be the most lucrative thing right now, but just being able to know that I'm doing something original that's also inspiring a generation of younger people to identify with their roots and also be proud of where they come from is, to me, it's one of the most amazing things.
Yeah, but, it seems to me, frankly, that you're already playing in major leagues.
You can say that. I'm the kind of person is that I don't necessarily like to dwell in present success, which it's okay to identify with things and say, okay, I achieved this, I achieved that. But for me, my scope and my ambition is so much bigger than, okay, some of the things I've achieved, like, appearing on CNN, BBC, New York Times, the Washington Post. These are all things that are very great, selling a number of books, being able to say that you've gone to different parts of the world and people recognize you or recognize your product. These are all great things. But, for me, this is just the start. There's really, really much bigger things. And for me, it's really about inspiring other people, not just Africans. It's inspiring people because I feel like as human beings, there's something that's in each and every one of us that we want to share with the world. Some people are too scared. Some people are afraid. Some people don't think they're good enough. But if people can see me doing what I feel like is in my heart to do, and they see me going out with courage to do it every day, I feel like they can use me as an example to say, well, if he can do it, if this ordinary guy can do this from Lagos, Nigeria, what makes it different for me? You can be from Africa, you can be from Asia, Europe, whichever part of the world. I feel like if you have something inside you, you owe it to the world to actually go out and, share it with the world.
So it is not, after all, after deep pockets.
Financially, obviously, yes, this is a business. At the end of the day, I do want to be successful financially. I'm just saying that's not the only thing. That cannot be the driving force for you to say you want to start to be an entrepreneur or a businessman. I feel like if that's a primary goal for you, you're setting yourself up as failure. At first, you have to know that you have passion for something. And second, you have to find a way to give back and inspire people, because I feel like that's the thing that's going to push you every day, even through the very, very bad times that you will inevitably have as an entrepreneur.
It's very interesting because you remind me of something I said once in an interview when someone asked me, what is my goal as an international broadcaster? And I said, to be very honest with you, it is if I can in fact be seen as an advocate of social, economic justice for all of us, I would have succeeded.
That's brilliant. And it's also part of what I even try to do with my books. On the surface, they are very, very nice and catchy stories with a lot of action and a lot of entertainment. But there's an element of, trying to educate people. And not just with my first book, EXO, but my next book that's coming out, Malaika Warrior Queen, is it's a pre-colonial story about a West African queen.
We'll talk about that because it does have a very profound historical, significance. But you seem to be a very down-to-earth guy. I can see how you dressed almost in every interview you have. And yet, you're not such a very simple individual, really, because you have somewhat, I think, made a difference in a lot of people's lives. And they are very important organizations that, in a sense, respect you. For example, the last time I checked, I saw that you are number 5 on Ventures Africa list of 40 African innovators to watch.
Yeah, that was one of the...
This is huge.
Yes, it is.
Isn't it?
It's actually very huge. And even to now, when I think about it, it's hard for me to comprehend, which is why I don't like to dwell on it. But it was such a great honor to be able to be part of that. And if you look at that list, there's some very, very influential people on there. Matter of fact, when they first called me, I was like, are you sure you have the right guy? But that's what I want to do. I want to make an impact. I want people to be able to see me on that list and say next year I can be there as well too.
You will tell us a little bit more after that, especially the fact that you can be able to rub shoulders with some CEOs of Fortune 500s with the President of the United States POTUS, especially during that particular international business, I think, forum in Silicon Valley, near San Francisco, California. Well, you're tuned into Straight Talk Africa, and we'll have more of a discussion in a moment. But first, here is Ian Bior. Take it away, Ian.
Thanks, Shaka. And still to come, we'll look at some of the fantastic feedback we received from our audience through social media. So stay with us.
Like Voice of America on Facebook. Follow VOA on Twitter. Join VOA on our YouTube channel. Like, follow, join VOA.
This is Straight Talk Africa on the Voice of America. Call us now with your questions and comments. The number is 202-619-3111, and the U.S. country code is 1. Call us direct and we'll call you right back. Remember to turn down the volume on your radio or television and keep your comments brief. Now back to Straight Talk Africa.
Thank you very much, Esther Githi-Ewart, and welcome back to Straight Talk Africa, live from Washington. Once again, it's time to bring in my colleague and social media reporter, Ian. Take it away again, Ian.
Well, thanks, Shaka. We received outstanding feedback in our STA inbox to this week's question. Entrepreneurship and the African diaspora is a striving business. This leads us to our question of the week, which asks, what business have you started in the African diaspora, and how successful is the venture? Well, let's begin the conversation with our letter of the week. Our letter of the week comes from Mohammed Ahmed Mansour from Monrovia, Liberia, who writes, setting up businesses enables individuals of the diaspora to transfer profitably the knowledge, skills, experience, and opportunities gained in countries of destination. Businesses are also vehicles through which the diaspora can make substantive contributions to innovation, production, and development. Jobs are created in the local economy, and the profits accumulated afford entrepreneurs a higher quality of life. Businesses are also a practical means of facilitating brain gain and transnational citizenship. Well, thank you, Mohammed, for your thoughts. And before we continue, I'd like to thank our audience for using our social media platforms to communicate with us. And another reminder that we are tweeting live today. Use the hashtag VOA Africa Business. And if you haven't yet, please follow us at VOA Shaka. And speaking of it, let's go to a tweet from Deng Paul from South Sudan, who tweets, it's been a good one, having done a few street art and worked with amazing artists. Deng Paul added another tweet, the only challenge I face is communicating my message without being misunderstood, as we have diverse cultures with unique perception of art. Well, Roy and Yvonne, as artists, I'm really excited to hear your reaction to that tweet. And now let's go to a comment from Facebook fan Amanua Akubo from Abuja, Nigeria, who writes, as an African based at home, I have teamed up with like minds to engage in agribusiness, both crop production and animal husbandry. Interestingly, the business venture has created jobs for over 100 people and meets the food needs of thousands of people. With plans on the ground, someday it will meet the food needs of millions of people. Well, Shaka, very interesting. Over to you.
Very interesting indeed. Yvonne, your reaction?
I do believe it's a challenge. I partly discussed it a little bit earlier with Luganda being such a small niche. I know that many people may wonder, why Luganda? But it does become challenging. So my books, as part of teaching Luganda, I also teach things like there's bullying aspect that's in one of the books, the farmers markets. One of the girls goes to the farmers market with mom and sister and gets bullied. So there's conflict resolution solutions for young kids in the book. There's also eating healthy, exercising. So there are other different ways to be able to bring everybody in. So there are multi-dimensions to the books. They don't just teach Luganda, but they're able to teach other different aspects of how we are raising our children today.
Very interesting. Osubio tanu nyabo.
Bulungi sebo, sibyo chano sebo.
Jetuli nyabo. Well, that is some Luganda for some of you that may be unaware of it. I was simply saying, how are you, ma'am? And she was saying, of course, responding back to me that she is terrific, sir. And I said, thanks, and that kind of stuff. Well, Ayen, it's all yours again.
Thanks, Shaka. Let's go to another Facebook comment from Othin Jeremiah, who writes, I started selling African garments, and it's going good. Well, that's very good to hear. Thank you for that comment. Let's go to our last comment from Facebook fan Drisa Mozere, who writes, the price of land equals rent, the price of labor equals wages, and the price of capital equals interest. Let them explain this in terms of appropriate technology and labor-intensive, applicable in third world countries of Nigeria, etc. Shaka, very interesting comment. Over to you.
Interesting indeed. What about you, Roy? Your reaction?
I mean, if I really understood what he said, I don't know if he was making a comment or actually asking a question, but I think he was basically trying to describe the cost of doing business.
He seems to have been asking the question and also attempting to answer it.
Yeah. Right. So I think it's, I mean, if I understood it clearly, that's the cost of doing business.
Interesting. Well, thanks again for bringing us this week's audience reaction.
It's my pleasure, and that does it for today's social media segment. Just a reminder that we appreciate all of the feedback, whether it's in social media form or using other means to communicate to us. Please keep them coming. And if you're a new fan, drop us a line at africatv@voanews.com. Once again, our email address is africatv@voanews.com. Or post your comment on our Facebook page. Enter the keywords Straight Talk Africa. Be sure to visit us online at voaafrica.com. Or you can join our YouTube channel. Sign up to VOA TV2 Africa, and follow us on Twitter at VOA Shaka. A reminder that the show is streaming live every Wednesday. Go to VOA Straight Talk Africa TV program page on our website. Or simply watch us live on your mobile device. Just download the VOA mobile app. Now let's take a look at what's on tap for next week's program. On the next Straight Talk Africa, an in-depth look at the challenges of political transitions in Africa, the Democratic Republic of Congo, Tanzania, and Gambia, to name a few, right here on the next Straight Talk Africa.
Welcome back to a conversation with two young entrepreneurs who are members of the African diaspora in the United States. Our distinguished guests are Roy Okupe, a Nigerian-born animator, and Ivan Senkandwa, author and entrepreneur from the Ugandan Kingdom of Buganda, who joins us from our Los Angeles bureau. Well, Yvonne, of course, and Roy, again, I must say that I am profoundly honored and exceedingly humbled to have the opportunity to host the two of you for the first time, by the way,
yes.
on Straight Talk Africa. Very interesting. Well, let me come to you, Ivan. Where do we go from here? What is the way forward for you?
Well, the way forward has so much to offer. I'm excited about my dolls, and I'm, of course, doing the groundwork to get those to little girls and little boys everywhere, and doll collectors as well. I would like to have an annual tea party where we get together with the kids and read and go over some of the things in the books, as well as teach the children to give back and give away an Kinzia Namika scholarship to one of the participants, as well as, like Roy, I would really love to go into animation and animate the series. I think that it would work well for an African audience as well as an American audience. I'm also a little bit into the fashion industry, so I created a bututu, which is a half busuti, and at the bottom is a ballerina bututu. So I'm excited to be able to have little girls wear the bututu that matches what the dolls are wearing.
How has your work been received in your own homeland and in the region and the continent in general so far?
So far, we've had some press in one of the largest newspapers in Uganda. There was an article written, and it was written in regard to contributing to the Buganda Kingdom. I'm sure the Queen and the King got a chance to read them. I hope so. So the reaction has been really good. There was lots of Facebook reactions on my page, as well as lots of messages, phone calls, and emails.
If the Queen, the Queen, of course, that is the Nabagereka in your language.
That's correct.
Sylvia Naginda, and the Kabaka himself, if they were somehow watching this program, what would you like to say to them?
I would like to say that I'm very, very, very much honored to be part of a culture, a monarch culture, and I'm very, very proud of the work that they do. I follow the Queen and the King on Facebook, social media, so that I can keep up with all the different things that they're doing in Uganda, as well as one of the most exciting things that I saw this holiday season is they have a Diaspora Day, which people from the diaspora are invited to the Lubiri, which is the palace, and are able to interact with the royal kingdom and the king and the queen to showcase the achievements and the talent that is Ugandan and out there in the diaspora. So if they were watching, I would say I am very honored that I can write about the kingdom, and I would like to represent it the best way possible for them.
Even as an American or Ugandan American, you are a citizen of both the United States and Uganda, is that correct?
Yes, I am.
Which would make you, I suppose, a citizen, meaning that you would be owing your allegiance to the state, not an individual authority, which therefore would give you inalienable rights or constitutional rights, really. And yet, when you become a member of the Buganda Kingdom, you automatically become a subject. Now, being a subject, you owe your allegiance to an individual authority, the Kabaka, and therefore, you have no rights except privileges, which would have to be granted to you by the individual authority. How do you resolve these contradictions, really?
Well, I would like to remain my own entity as a person. I believe that the work that I'm doing is work for the community. It is work for Buganda, and I leave it as that. I do have another title that I go home to, which is mother, and that is important to me, as well as being a sister, as well as being a daughter, a niece, and I think that those things hold me up into who I am so that I can do the work to represent the Buganda Kingdom. if I didn't have my family or my child to raise, I think my perspective in contributing would be a little bit different.
Very interesting. A reminder that you are tuned into Straight Talk Africa. To participate in our discussion, please call us at 202-619-3111. The US country code is 1. We'll continue our discussion in a moment, so please don't go away.
The lyrics could be French,
English,
Portuguese,
Bantu,
Arabic.
It is the beat.
The African beat that counts.
The beat does all the translations.
It cuts across all languages and gives us the understanding that this is the African beat.
It is so distinct
and adhesive.
It binds us together.
African Beat on the Voice of America. For more information, visit our website at www.voanews.com/AfricanBeat.
If you like today's show, please write and tell us what you think or give us some suggestions. Be sure to tell us what station you're tuned into. Our address, Straight Talk Africa, Voice of America, 330 Independence Avenue Southwest, Washington, D.C. 20237 USA. Or send us an email at africatv@voanews.com. Log on to our website at voaafrica.com. Or post your comments on Facebook. Keywords Straight Talk Africa.
Thank you very much, Esther Giziri Yuwat, and of course, you are welcome back to Straight Talk Africa, coming to you live from Washington. Earlier, Oga, you accepted the fact that being on this Ventures Africa's list of 40 African innovators to watch is not a cup of tea, my brother.
No, it's not.
It's hugely important.
Yes, it is.
Now, that obviously gives you, again, an opportunity to rub shoulders with the movers and shakers, really, around the globe, correct?
Yes.
How does it feel, you know, for you to find yourself in a situation like that? Because we're talking about fame here.
Right.
And yet, the Chinese have a very sobering saying about fame. It says, men dread fame, just like a pig dreads fattening, for both could be a prelude to slaughter.
That's a very scary saying, first of all. But I think the way I handle it is I wouldn't be where I am today without humility. That's one of my primary, one of the primary things I try to practice every day. And I feel like no matter what list I'm on, no matter where I find myself, that's the one thing that always grounds me is humility. And it's not just something I do on my own. It's because I have an accountability system around me.
You actually practice it?
No, it's not. When I say practice, I mean it's like a daily thing where, like, at the back of my mind, I always tell myself, you have to always be humble, no matter what you achieve, because that's just, I feel like it's the best way, first of all, to interact with people and to invite people in. You cannot walk around feeling like because you've achieved it. And that doesn't mean you cannot have confidence in yourself. I just feel like there's a difference between confidence and being arrogant, you know, and it's a fine line, by the way, but I think being humble gives you access to a lot more, to talk to a lot more people, to interact with a whole lot of people, and it also grounds you and it keeps you going, keeps you hungry for better things.
But your character, this one,
yes,
is a swaggering character.
He's not humble.
Correct?
No, he's not humble. At the beginning of the story, because he has a lot of flaws.
Exactly.
When you're telling a story, you can't have a perfect character. You have to have people that are growing. You have to have people that are coming from one point to another.
Dramatize.
Exactly.
Exaggerate a bit here and there.
Exactly.
Sensationalize.
Yes.
You know, when my generation was growing up, there was this character, Lance Spearman.
Right.
He used to put on what they call the Panama hat, a bow tie,
right,
a stradded suit. He would be smoking cigars, driving a Corvette sports car, and man, he could get all the beautiful, gorgeous ladies.
Right, right.
All of us, my friend, who had opportunity to have unfettered access to that magazine,
yes,
you wanted to be like Lance Spearman.
Right.
Not the other evil character called Zorro. You know?
Right. I mean, it's a typical, sensationalizing of like a hero. Like not only that, you grow up watching things like James Bond, or even with the recent Marvel movie like Iron Man. You see his bravado, his swagger, and we, I mean, as human beings, we want to have certain aspects of that.
In fact, Lance Spearman was a precursor to what later, in terms of film genre in Hollywood, became what came to be known as black exploitation.
Right.
Where you obviously have this major character as Richard Roundtree, Shaft in Africa, and what have you.
Right.
You remember that?
Well, these things were before my time, but I've actually read up on most of them, especially the black exploitation, and I mean, that era of even in of its own had some very questionable things, and that's where I'll leave it at.
Tell us a bit about your experience in Silicon Valley.
Yeah, so I was at the Global Entrepreneurship Summit hosted by President Obama, and it was a very good experience. I got to not only see but meet the people that were very influential. CEO of Uber was there, people from Shark Tank, Damon Dash from South Actor. I took a picture with him, Airbnb CEO. I mean, I got to sit at a conference where Obama was literally like maybe just 20 feet away from me.
You were breathing the same air.
Yes, I was, and I had to tell you that was one of the highlights of my career, was be able to be in the same room with him and hear him give a speech to entrepreneurs from all over the world and basically inspire us and tell us that we are the next generation, of technology, of storytelling, and we should basically go out and do great things.
Maybe you could help us, in fact, have access to some of those important players so that they can actually come here on Straight Talk Africa. What about that?
I will do my best. I also have a lot of friends that may not be like Obama, but friends that are also entrepreneurs that would fit very right at home with this show. And those are the accountability system that I'm talking about. They keep on pushing me, I keep on pushing them, and I feel like those are the kind of people that you need to surround yourself with, like-minded people that are going somewhere, people that believe in the same things that you believe in, inspiring, making yourself better and doing great things out there in the world.
Very interesting. Ivan, of course, in the City of the Angels, what about if somebody were to ask you this question? What have been some of the most difficult changes that you have had to go through, and what were you able to do in order to figure out how to overcome those challenges?
Well, challenges, I really believe, are part of the design God intended for our lives. I think that being spiritually grounded is a great way to go through challenges. I believe that they are part of life, and being in them, praying through them, talking to friends and family, and getting encouragement is a great way to get through the challenges.
Very interesting. What are some of the lessons that you have learned that you think would be very, very important to an average person in the audience who might probably be thinking about the same thing, and yet they really don't know how to go about it?
The best advice I can give, which I use myself, is like Nike, just do it. I think you have to start.
Just do it. Like
just
Nancy
do
Reagan, the first lady, Mrs. Reagan at one time also. Just do it. Very interesting.
Just do it.
Very interesting.
Just do it and have patience. It takes time. There isn't a speedy way to getting goals accomplished. Part of my work, I look at it as goals and daily goals, and I feel like there's certain things that I have to accomplish every day. Many times I don't get results, and that's when I have to be patient. That's when I have to maybe spend time with friends and family and put my work aside and get back to it. Sometimes it just does need to sit on the back burner while you refresh yourself, because it does become challenging and results just don't come easy.
Very interesting. Olga, let's talk a bit about Malaika, warrior queen, historical fantasy. Very interesting. How did you come about this?
Well,
Malaika. Do you have Malaikas in West Africa, really?
Yeah, yeah, we do.
Malaikas are supposed to
Malaika.
be essentially, frankly, I guess, a staple from somewhere where I come from on the other side of the continent.
Well, I mean, depending on the region, right? So for my inspiration for Malaika actually comes from the Arabic word Malika, which means queen.
I think
that's
you
where I got it from.
have a point, by the way, because in fact, for us too, Malaika comes from Kiswahili,
right?
Which of course is a sort of combination of Arabic,
right,
and the Bantu-speaking languages.
Exactly.
But the pronunciation is the same, but the spelling is different.
It's different.
Why?
Yes. It's actually a funny story. So I actually wanted to so my Malaika is spelled Malika, right? But the way it's supposed to be pronounced is Malaika.
That is
so
correct.
when I was creating the logo, I actually made a typo. I was doing this at 1 a.m. in the night, and I forgot the A. And then I sent it to my lawyer for trademarking and everything. So by the time I found out that, I'd done it, it was already too late. I just said, you know what, that's just the way I'm just going to pronounce it, But
can I tell you something?
Yes.
When I was at UCLA,
yes,
I ran into this beautiful woman from Kenya.
Okay.
And she told me her name was Angel.
Right.
And I said, how can you possibly come from Kenya and your name is Angel? What about Malaika?
Which means angel.
Yes, of course.
Yes.
You can't believe it. From that time until today,
yes,
she is known as Malaika.
Oh, wow. That's interesting. Very interesting.
How can somebody be like you?
Be like me?
Yes. If someone, for example, in the audience,
yes,
wanted to stand on your shoulders,
okay,
in order to see a little bit further than you,
okay,
what can they do? What do they have to do in order to accomplish that? You have 30 seconds.
To me, it's very simple. You find something that you have passion about, and you do it every day until you have a breakthrough. That's really what has gotten me this far. And I wake up every day, I pray to God for direction, and I go out and I do the best that I can do because I know that I have passion for something. I know that I'm in the right place.
Very interesting. Ivan, I have to say again that I'm delighted to inform you and the audience that I was introduced to you by a very important journalist on the West Coast who we characterize here as Hollywood Nandi Maweta himself. And I'm very glad that he recommended you. But my last question, and you have very few seconds really, what's next for you?
What's next for me is I am doing the groundwork to get the dolls to customers. I'm working with retailers, and I would like to be able to get them into stores so that perhaps by next Christmas we will have little boys and girls walking around with dolls. I would also like to continue this year to have an annual tea party, as well as get to sell some of the Batutu dresses to girls with their dolls.
Thank you. Thank you very
personally, I'm just looking also forward to just being a great mother.
Thank you, thank you. Well, on that note, thanks to our distinguished guests, Roy Okupe, a Nigerian-born animator, and Ivan Senkandwa, author and entrepreneur, who joined us from Los Angeles. Thanks to our affiliate stations. Along with our viewers and listeners, we thank you for tuning in. For many of our Voice of America radio affiliates, Learning English is coming up next. And tomorrow morning's Daybreak Africa with James Bate. On behalf of the Voice of America, thanks for tuning into Straight Talk Africa. In the meantime, get better, not bitter Africa. And please remember to keep the African hopes alive.
I'm Vincent McCory from Africa 54. This is VOA. Follow us on Africa 54. Go to facebook.com/VOA Africa 54.